right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mike. And today, for episode 43, for the new year, the first card of the year, I'm going live with my guy, Pat, Addicted to Combat. Going to be breaking down the card from the bottom up. I know I went live last week, but going to be way more fun picking Pat's brain. I think we're going to agree on a lot, disagree on a few. So I'm hyped to hear what Pat's thinking. Pat, thank you for coming on, man. How are you feeling about this card?
It is so good to be back, man, and no better place to be than on your podcast, dude. And we got our panel next week for the pay-per-view. Just glad to be back after that break. You know, it was well deserved for the content creators and all the gamblers that do the grinding week in, week out. But man, time to get back to it. Fresh year, and already we got the 2022 craziness bleeding over into 2023 with a new main event. So I actually like this main event more than the original one. So maybe that's the optimist in me, but I think it's a more fun matchup in my opinion.
I like the new main event honestly better too. Like, also probably because I think my old bet would have made me really anxious. I did have Imavov over Gastelum,
yeah.
So now I can at least relax on that because people were making me nervous with that one. But
that was a close fight. We'll get into it when we talk about the main event. But I thought that was going to be a competitive fight as well. So yeah, a little bit of yeah, and speaking about that, man, I don't have many bets, so I'm going to have you. I know you usually research these early. You have a lot of action all over the place. You do round robins and stuff like that. So I have one bet placed on this card so far. So I'm looking to add at least a couple more, but sketchy card this week, you know, just one of those cards where I'm grateful just to have fights back in our lives. But betting-wise, things have gotten kind of out of control with these money lines.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. These odds have been nuts, and they opened maybe more correct or more moderate, and then they just fucking blew up, completely blew up. But
no doubt.
We'll hop right into it. Let's say what's up to our person in the chat, GC Van Dam. Good evening to you, brother. I believe this is your first time in here, so thank you.
John Claude, what's up?
And thank you for anyone tuning in today, and we're going to hop right into it. So for this first fight, we've got Priscila Cachoeira versus Sijara Eubanks. Priscila is 12-4-0, 34 years old. She's 5'7" with a 65-inch reach, and she is training out of MMA Masters. Eubanks is 7-7-0, the definition of a 500 fighter. 37 years old, 5'4", so she's given up 3 inches in height, 67-inch reach. She's got the 2-inch reach advantage. And on my notes, I just couldn't figure it out, so I don't know where she trains. Pat, any idea?
No clue.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. I like to look at their Instagrams. Unfortunately, that didn't help me much with Eubanks, so we'll have to work without it. But
her name is Sarge, isn't it? Maybe she trains at some military base somewhere, you know?
I wouldn't be surprised. Her picture kind of looks like she has a wrestling background on Tapology, but I'm completely guessing. But Pat, how do you feel about this fight?
I mean, the first fight of the UFC calendar year in 2023, starting off with a bang between these two. And it should be an exciting fight, whether it's, kind of low level or mid tier for the women's division or not. But man, Cachoeira has been doing pretty good. And you mentioned the 7-7 record of Sijara Eubanks, which she gets kind of clowned for. But I mean, if you boil down the high level fights of Cachoeira, she's 4-4 in the UFC. So not too different there, right? 500 fighter in her own right at the high level. And Sijara Eubanks has been at the bigger promotions her entire career, Invicta in the UFC only. There's just a lot not to like about Eubanks, in my opinion. She does have the kind of the game plan to beat a girl like Cachoeira who has the grappling defense issues. But man, 37 years old at this weight class, she's constantly missing weight year after year, time after time. And I just don't think that she's going to be physical enough to deal with Cachoeira, who is, just like her nickname suggests, the zombie girl. She moves forward, never been put out by strikes. She hits very hard. I mean, her striking defense is non-existent, but she proves durability in return. And I like her to finish this fight late. I really do like a round 3 knockout for Cachoeira. The money line, I do not agree with this money line at all. I think it should be a lot closer. And somehow it keeps moving in the favor of Sijara Eubanks, with Cachoeira jumping up to plus 200 on some books already. So, God, I don't want my first bet of the year to be on Cachoeira, but I do pick her to win this fight. And I'll look at that round 3 knockout prop, which maybe on some books like FanDuel will be more. I know BetOnline, it's plus 1,000, but and also just the knockout prop for Cachoeira is something super low. It's plus 250 or something. God, I wish it was more money than that. So this might be a pass, but Cachoeira late knockout. That's my lean for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I share most of your feelings, Pat. I kind of lean Eubanks if she doesn't get a KO. Like, if you tell me there's a knockout in this fight, I'm going to tell you it's 99.9% going to be Cachoeira. I just think that Eubanks' wrestling will probably be enough. We have her seen, I mean, oh my God. We have seen her kind of fall into like the same thing that Cachoeira has gotten a dub in, like, right, the Gina Mazzani fight, against Mosagato, who I'm actually very high on, where she's good. Down, controlled her, got tired, and I think Gatto ended up finishing it with a body shot and then finished up. But Cachoeira, maybe she's not as technical as Gatto. Like, if she fought Gatto, I'd be all over Mosagato. But I still think she's a pretty good striker. She's been rapidly improving. And in her last few fights, I actually really liked what I saw from her striking. So if Eubanks can't keep this down, like you, I think Cachoeira is going to get a late finish. I love my round 3 props. So that was one of the first things I looked at was Cachoeira by KO round 3. And like you said, it's plus 1,000, which honestly isn't that tempting for a spot like this. So unless FanDuel gives us like plus 1,400, I'll be off of that. The only play I did make is a bit of a contrarian play. I've seen a lot of stuff going back and forth on this one, but I played the over 2.5. I got it at plus, what was it? I got it at plus 135. It's been going back and forth. I just feel like right now everybody's loving this under, and rightfully so, because Cachoeira, how is she probably going to win this fight? Most likely by knockout. Why is my camera shaking like this? Okay.
Yeah, we got an earthquake going. Are you recording in like a life raft or something?
I think I'm like rocking the desk. I move too much, but I just feel like unless Cachoeira gets the knockout, I don't see a finish. Like, I don't see Eubanks submitting her. Maybe a ground and pound TKO, but Zombie Girl is tough, and she's shown that time and time again. And I don't think that. Eubanks has the BJJ of Jillian Robertson to submit her. So I do think we're going to go over. And if it's a late finish like you, I think it's probably Cachoeira. But other than that, this is a stay away for me.
I like the overs in this fight too. Like, if you don't think about the potential violence. Like Eubanks slowing down her cardio issues, the weight cut issues I highlighted. If you don't consider those things, you just look, this is a women's flyweight fight. The finishing potential, not there all the time in the division. You're getting plus money for this just to go over 2.5. I do like that. That's still sitting around plus 125 on BetOnline. So I like that spot a lot just from like a pure statistic standpoint.
Yeah, and you actually mentioned something I wanted to say, and now I'm blanking on it again, Pat. So if I remember it, I'm going to bring it up.
It was Cachoeira round 3 knockout. That's what
I remember now what I wanted to say. Weight classes. This fight was supposed to be at 135.
Was it?
Yeah, it was, at least as far as Tapology told us.
I think they just screwed it up. I think it was going to be 125.
So
they might have just goofed it.
That kind of changes things for me because like Eubanks has missed weight, and then Cachoeira, has she missed weight? I don't remember off the top of my head, but I kind of feel like I remember that.
I can't remember offhand. But yeah, Eubanks, that's the thing that's gone back to like her Ultimate Fighter days. Like, it's been a long time she's been missing weight, just time and time again. But yeah, the reason why I think they thought it was going to be 135 is because Cachoeira was going to fight Lipski last summer at 125. Lipski missed weight, so they made it a 135 bout. So I think that's why they're doing that. But I think it was 125 the whole time. Cachoeira did miss weight against Robertson a little over a year ago.
Okay, there you go. That's what I was wondering. So maybe both women are going to struggle with the weight cut, but
probably
we can move on. This one is definitely more fun to break down. We've got Jimmy Flick versus Charles Johnson. Flick is 16-5-0, 32 years old. He's 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, training out of, let me try to see what I got. It does seem he's out of Forza Combat Sports, as Tapology says. And then Johnson, he's 12-3-0, 32 years old. So he's going to be the same age pretty much. He's just 4 months younger. 5'9", he's 2 inches taller, same reach, and he's currently training out of Redline Fitness. So I'll start this one off. I mean, the first question, right, for all of us is, why is Jimmy Flick back? Dude retired a little bit over 2 years ago. Why is he back? I mean, you kind of have to assume it's money, right? Like, if you had that championship mindset, you probably wouldn't have retired. And like when he did retire, he literally said, I just have better ways to make money, and I'm going to go do that rather than getting beat up or fighting. and then he comes back. So obviously those routes didn't work out. To me, it seems like a money thing. And I think they couldn't have given him a worse matchup. He's like on semi-short notice. I don't think it's like worth saying it's short notice at this point because I think it was like almost a month or something like that. But Johnson was originally supposed to fight Molina before Molina got clipped for whoever knows what's happening back there with the gambling stuff. But I don't know. I really wanted to like Flick. I really wanted to maybe play his sub prop. I don't see it. Then I was looking at Johnson by decision because like he has finishes, he has knockouts, but at least in this higher level that we've seen recently, he's not getting finishes. He's going to decision. Even with guys like Yuma Horiuchi, who we know now, he's talented, but extremely hittable. He's a walking, talking punching bag. And Johnson did not knock him out. So that's why I was thinking like, all right, Johnson by decision. I saw it at 5 dimes, which wasn't available at the time. It was like plus 195. On Bet Online, I'm looking now. Johnson decision is plus 250. Like, I would have liked that. I just feel like I can't trust Flick to survive because, first of all, he's been finished, what, I think 4 or 5 losses. And second of all, like we said, he's been out for 2 years. So I imagine he's probably going to get knocked out. I was tempted on just putting a half unit on the knockout prop for Johnson, but at plus 100, that's like not tempting at all. So as of now, I've got nothing on this, and I'm going to stay off. What are you thinking, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the Jimmy Flick situation, coming back, I think he was the one that was supposed to fight Jeff Molina, I believe. So that would have been a much better matchup coming back, right? Because he could probably have been very competitive against Jeff Molina probably and come back, had like a nice step-up fight. Now, this is a step up in competition against Charles Johnson, and I just don't see it going well. I mean, you talked at the top about, like, why is he coming back, the mentality. It's very rare that fighters, especially when they're young, like they kind of have to be put out due to injury to retire. I mean, you see it all the time with even old guys that come back. Like you retire at age 29 to 30 and you're still able-bodied. You're sitting at home watching the UFC fights and you're like, I could kill all of these guys in this division and be champion. Like I've had friends that have done that before and people I've trained with, and it's just never going to take. So of course he's got the itch to come back, make some money. But yeah, I can't trust somebody who's been off for 2 years plus. It's just a wild card to me. So with the money line the way it is, way too wide. I'm leaning towards Charles Johnson inside the distance. I think that's a good look. Fight doesn't go, I also do like, just because I think Flick has always been kind of this, super high-paced guy. He's been put out before by strikes. He's finished people by submission. Obviously, he can do that in creative ways. I think if this plays out where I think it's going to, it'll be largely against the cage, where Jimmy Flick's trying to maybe pull guard in the clinch. Charles Johnson might land something devastating there and end the fight. So I think that's kind of how this plays out. Johnson survived against even Mokaev before. I think he'll be good to stay safe against getting tapped out, and I think he lands something devastating at some point and wins the fight by strikes.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar with the Mokaev fight and even the Zalgas fight, right? Like, he was fighting decent wrestlers, and should he have won the Zalgas fight? Probably not. I didn't touch that fight with the 10-foot pole, and I'm glad I didn't. But he's shown an ability to defend takedowns and survive grappling, and I think both of those guys we just mentioned are better than Flick at wrestling. Flick's grappling, like offensive wrestling, is okay. It works at a certain level. I just don't expect it to work against a guy like Johnson, who had to prepare for Muhammad Mokaev, who had to prepare for Zalgas Zumagulov. I have to imagine he'll be prepared at least with the takedown defense for this fight. So we're on the same side and we can move right along.
I just don't like touching fights like this where there's one, because that's a huge unknown. When a guy retires, comes back, there was no apparent injury that had him out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a wild card. Could he have leveled up in his time off? I don't know. But with the money line as wide as it is,
was he even at practice, right? Like, we don't even know.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think he's still stayed in the community doing things like in MMA, but yeah, you just never know where his mind is at. And like I said, this is a step up in competition. But they've priced me out of betting Charles Johnson. I wouldn't even be comfortable parlaying him, honestly. It's just kind of an unknown.
I almost parlayed him with Rebecki, and then I was just like, I can't do this. Because I do like him here, but he does start slow and he makes some stupid errors. So
yeah.
Would I be super shocked if Flick just caught him in something? Not super shocked.
Dude, it's so tempting just to like try to get value off of this card, especially me with having like very little bets on this one and probably ending with few bets on this card. Like just to find all the confident people that aren't on short notice, just parlay them all together and get like plus 100 for 5 fights going my way. But I'm just not going to start the year off that way.
Yeah, at this point, I just want to survive this week and get to 283 because that's dope. And then we only have like 1 week and we're right into 284, which is going to be banging.
Can't wait.
But we'll move right along. So we've got a fight that has been changing nonstop. We now have Daniel Argueta versus Nick Aguirre. Argueta is 8-1-0. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, and he is training at a Jackson Wink as far as I could tell. Nick is 7-0, undefeated as a pro, 26 years old. He's 5'9". He's 2 inches taller. I did not get his reach, unfortunately. And I could not figure out where he's training from either way. I mean, either. So we're going with Midwest Training Center, unless Pat knows any better. But Pat, it's your turn, man. Did you break this fight down? Because
this is the fight where I don't know anything about Nick.
Right.
I don't know anything about Nick. What's his last name? Aguirre or something like that.
Aguirre, or I'm so bad with pronunciation. Like
that one's just a weird last name. But anyways, yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter was I thought Daniel Argueta versus Bulgarian was a competitive fight and that the money line was a bit too wide on that one as it was. And Bulgarian was a guy who was kind of like a can crusher, unproven. So I was going to side with Argueta just on the fact that he's actually been in the Ultimate Fighter before. He's actually seen round 5 in a fight like in the LFA where he needed to win those later rounds. He showed perseverance and toughness. I know the guy can take a punch. I know the guy can persevere. He's not, the greatest striker defensively. He's not like the greatest defensive wrestler either. So that was kind of a toss-up fight. But now the money line has switched where Argueta was like a minus 200 over Bulgarian. He's like a minus 600 over this guy, Nick Aguirre. So, I mean, what is it about Nick that makes him so much worse than the original opponent?
Not much, honestly. That's what I was kind of hyped to talk about because luckily they announced this fight before we started the show today. I had some time to tape it. Didn't take long because Nick Aguirre has like all of 15 minutes of tape and not all of it is available. So like you spend all of 10 minutes watching this guy. And I'll say this. He's just a wish version of Bulgarian, which is like if you thought Bulgarian was very live, I personally think you have to probably bet Aguirre also then at plus 425 at this rate. If you wait till Friday, Saturday, you'll probably get plus 500, plus 6. He's not that different. He's bigger than Bulgarian, maybe not stockier, not stronger, not at as good of a camp, but his wrestling background, D2 as well. Not as high as Bulgarian, not as good as Argueta, both also D2, but he does have that. And then in terms of his fights, it's all wrestling, just like Bulgarian. And the finishes look similar. He's getting them on the ground. Competition is similar. Not great. Bulgarian was getting fed people in FAC by his own coach, James Krause, who owned the promotion. So can you say that Aguirre is over here fighting people much worse? I can't say that. And what's his game? It's wrestling. His striking, actually, I was surprised by. Looked pretty good. It was straight. Not like very high technique, but he was doing the basics well, which I think is super important. Now, I'm not making an argument for Aguirre to win. I'm just making an argument for not betting Argueta. I think he should win this fight. I think he'll probably finish because he's the guy with the experience. He's the guy who's fought way, way, way better competition. He's fought guys who can grapple him. He's fought guys who will strike him, and he's won most of those fights. We've seen him struggle against Damon Jackson, but I think Damon Jackson would smoke Aguirre because we're also talking about a guy in Nick Aguirre. He is bigger, but he looks very, very frail, like very skinny, not so strong compared to a guy like Argueta, who's like built. The guy is built. He's short and small, but he's built.
One thing I liked about Bulgarian's game compared to Argueta was, his ground game looked, you could tell even when he was crushing cans that were like had a very, minimal experience. You can see that like he would catch his opponent's kick and then go right into like a full mount, just kind of ride to the top position to either get a rear naked choke or just knock him out in the mount. Do you see that same, like, you could tell that guy Bulgarian was skilled in BJJ. He knew what he was doing. Do you see that from Aguirre? or like where do you see his ground skill at? Like, or were these guys just folding to him? Did he struggle, or did he like kind of know exactly what he was going to do to get these guillotines? I'm seeing a couple rear naked chokes. His Tapology picture for Nick is like him mounting somebody, just pounding their face in. Like, does he look that impressive, kind of like Bulgarian did? Or
yeah, he does, honestly.
Okay.
The competition makes it so that he does look like a stud, similar to Bulgarian. That's why I'm fairly confused why people love Bulgarian. I get why they liked him at plus 200. But if you were playing him at plus 160, 150, I don't see why you wouldn't play Aguirre at plus almost 500. The style is like very similar. The competition is very similar. I guess he doesn't look as strong as Bulgarian did. Like, you look at Bulgarian, it kind of looks like a little brick shit house, right? Not so much with Aguirre. Aguirre looks like a high schooler, kind of, to me at least. So maybe that's like the big difference. But like, his ground game is allegedly nasty, like you mentioned, like rear nakeds, most of them guillotines. He's got 4 sub wins. Not bad. It's just the competition level, right? But
yeah,
the one thing
it was a stay away fight for me before, just because Bulgarian looked like the better fighter, but he wasn't facing the competition or adversity, right? We never saw him have to really go. He never even started around 2 in his amateur, his professional, so. I mean, that's just a big red flag, a big stay away for me. This fight doesn't seem much different. So, I don't know. Very weird, man. Very weird. Looks like, that's like one of these things where, you're going to see a minus 600 on the boards, and you're going to be like, maybe that can add some extra value to a parlay. I wouldn't do it, because I don't like what I see from Argueta at all.
Chiarix speaking facts right now. This is literally an LFA prelims fight over here.
Yeah.
But Pat, what do you think? I know you didn't see much of Aguirre, but based on what we know, he's never left round 1 except the one time he went to round 2. Under 2.5 is at minus 200. Maybe a parlay piece.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. The parlay piece, that would be tough for me. I would just play it like, straight up. I would just put the money and try to win a couple of units to win one on that one, honestly. It wouldn't be the worst look in the world, but that's just such an unknown. I don't like it at all. No, I wouldn't even play that. What am I talking about?
I feel you.
Yeah, I wouldn't even trust it because I don't know. I mean, these guys, that guy could have a ton of cardio, and we just don't know. Like, all of his pre-UFC opponents could have just folded. He could have cardio for days. I don't know.
That's a good point. At the end of the day, they have to fight who they're given, right? Like, it's not their fault they're fighting cans. Sometimes it is, but not always.
Right. Like, if I'm going to bet for sure, I'm going to like parlay an under. I have to know that what the guy I'm betting on in that fight is, he's folded before, right? He's gassed out, not just like he's never seen it before. I've learned my lesson on that in 2022.
Definitely makes sense. All right, we'll move on to the next one. This one I'm hyped to talk about. Let's hop into the chat real quick. So, let's see. CT710, my guy, thank you for tuning in, brother. He was bummed about Bulgarian. He had plus 210. And he pointed out that I literally made the reasons of why Aguirre is different than Bulgarian. Our guy, MMA Prodigy, what's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in. He's got great content himself. Make sure to check him out. Chiarix, my guy here. We already spoke about this. He's not wrong with the prelim fight. And is this my own place? I rent it myself. Yes, I wish I could own it. I don't have that kind of bread just yet. Hopefully we'll hit some parlays this year. But all right, we'll hop right in. And we've got another one where, like, I get the favorite, but the chalk is something else. We got Nascimento versus Carlos Hernandez. Allan Nascimento is 19-6-0. He's 31 years old. 5'8" with the 70-inch reach, training at a shoot box, Diego Lima. Hernandez is 8-1-0, 29 years old, so he's going to be 2 years younger. 5'8", they got the same height, 67-inch reach. He's given up 3 inches in reach. And I'll start this one off. Oh, yeah, he's training at a VFS Academy as far as I could tell. So I'll start this one off. Technique-wise, I think that grappling goes to Nascimento very clearly. Very clearly. Hernandez got taken down like 5 times by Barres on the Contender Series. Not a great look. I'm pretty sure Altamirano got him down. Not a great look, especially if you're going to fight a guy with the BJJ skills of Nascimento. My thing is that Nascimento, he's coming out of shoot box. And like, we look at these shoot box guys normally, and their striking is pretty good. Like, it's a Muay Thai heavy style. And look at Charles Oliveira. Look at Daniel Willycat Santos. They are getting hit a lot. The defense is a big problem, but the offense is also very good. I don't share that opinion for Nascimento. I don't think his striking is all that great. And I feel that if we're stuck on the feet here, I think that in the first round, he's going to dominate. He's going to be getting takedowns nonstop. Live betting, maybe a spot. I spoke about this yesterday when I went live with my guy Evan on his channel. I was telling him, like, the reason I don't live bet often is I just don't have the opportunity. I'm usually doing things on Saturday. Unfortunately, it's the weekend. It's the only time I can do stuff. So sometimes I just can't live bet. This might be a great spot because I do think Nascimento will dominate round one. I just feel that if Hernandez can keep it on the feet for the majority of the fight, I think that he's got the better output. He probably has the better striking. And I think he could edge at a decision. I don't think it's the most likely outcome, so I kept it small. But I did play his prop. I played Hernandez by decision plus 500 for a half unit. I feel like it's a pretty decent shot. I think it's a moderately possible outcome, more than plus 500 shows. So I do want to hear what you think, Pat. What are you thinking for this one?
I like this fight. I like Nascimento. He's gained my respect over the past few fights. The Takeera Ulanbekov one, he made me sweat because I had a lot wagered on Ulanbekov, and I think that was like the first fight of an Abu Dhabi card in the prelims. And man, split decision that could have gone Nascimento's way, and that's happened a couple of times for Nascimento, right? Like, you know, the splits could have gone his way. The complete opposite is true for Hernandez, where he's had splits go his way that, you know, maybe he deserved, maybe he didn't. So kind of a weird situation there with their records and decisions. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the pure striking goes to Hernandez here. I think the grappling largely goes in the favor of Nascimento, who is not like the greatest pure wrestler, but he can catch kicks and get into a dominant position. He can pull guard if he needs to and sweep. I mean, he's a very crafty guy, and he likes to work off of his back a lot, and he's very dangerous there. But like you saw in the Ulanbekov fight, like he was actually winning some of the fight when he was, getting dominated and got his back taken. He's still very active from the bottom position. So I like him a lot. The striking leaves a lot to be desired technique-wise, but just like those shoot-to-box guys, it's aggressive, though, at the very least, right? It's like very confident that even if they fall to the mat or get their kick caught, they can still win the fight with their BJJ. So I like Nascimento. Does he warrant this money line? Probably not. Like, there's not a lot of extra value on it, but I'm pretty confident he wins this fight. Now, like I said, I mean, Nascimento likes to be very confident playing BJJ off his back. That could fall into your favor with the Hernandez decision victory, right? Because, unless you're like backpacking a guy and you're on bottom, you're losing the round. You're losing control time. So Hernandez has a lot to prove here. I'm not very high on his skill set. He seems very hesitant to me. And even in his last fight against Altamirano, he was like coasting towards the end of that fight, and it ultimately cost him. So, give me Nascimento pretty confidently. I don't know any way to play this besides like a Nascimento finish or a Hernandez decision. I think would be where you'd find the best plus money.
He lost to Altamirano, right? No, he beat him. He
edged it out. It was a split.
Right? By split, yeah. His last two wins, both by split.
It was
Daniel Barres
and
yeah. I don't remember. I mean, I watched the Altamirano fight literally yesterday. I don't remember exactly how I felt in terms of scores, but the Barres.
I remember going to the scorecards. I'm like, I had no idea who won the fight. That's how I felt about it.
So it makes sense then. And then the Barres fight, like, I do see why they edged it to him, but it was also a close fight. Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be just weird, right? Like, either Nascimento subs him or it's going to get, like, choppy, and that's why I was just like, all right, I'll play the plus 500. I think that's off, but I like cheap plays. Like, you know me, Pat. Like, if I can get a spot where I think it's, like, more likely than not and the odds don't reflect that, I'll take a little shot.
Right, because you'll throw out like 0.2, 0.25 unit shots on those long shots, and eventually one hits and it covers all the times you didn't hit it, right? So
yeah, I mean, I'll say so I did like an end of year review. I know a lot of us did, and the one thing I actually noticed on Bet MMA was that in my round props, not this year but all time, I've lost 31 units playing round props. So that is something that I'm going to throw into the garbage this year. Maybe play.
No, dude. Now it's the year. Now it's the regression to the mean hits, and you're going to start hitting all of them.
It's like you hit one.
Now's the time to do more. Double down on it. You like Yanni the Greek says, you can't start strategy jumping now, Mike.
I cannot wait for the next Contender Series season to see how Yanni the Greek does this time around. I mean, last season was something else.
Dude, it can't be any worse. Probably.
But all right, we'll move right along. So for this next fight, we've got another one where the odds just make it weird. We've got Mateus Mendoca versus Javid Basharat. Now, I'm very careful with how I'm pronouncing Mendoca because I got roasted on my own YouTube comments for this. So I've learned my lesson.
What happened?
Oh, I just got told that I said it wrong. They were like, Mendoca? I was like, all right.
Yeah. It's got the little squiggly line on it, so you gotta say the S part.
I was like, my fault. But all right. We've got Mendoca, who's 10-0, undefeated as a pro, 23 years old. He's 5'6" with a 72-inch reach, and he's another shoot box guy. We've got Basharat on the other side. He's 13-0, 27 years old, so he's 4 years older. 5'9", he's 3 inches taller. He's got a 69-inch reach. So he's given up, 3 inches in reach, training out of Extreme Couture. Pat, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, it's an odd fight, in my opinion, because this is a great spot for Mateus Mendoca to come into the UFC and, pretty much take over what Javid Basharat has worked hard for at this point, right? If he beats Basharat, he's basically proving that he's, it kind of seems like he won't have to face a level of Trevin Jones or a level of Tony Gravely. He might just jump right into this upper echelon. The division is so deep at 135, but he might just jump right in if he beats Javid, because Javid is very special. I think it's going to take a special talent to beat him, but ultimately I don't think Mendoca is there just yet. He's got all of the skills, right? He's got power in his hands, as we saw the Contender Series. I mean, just unbelievable knockout power, right? Just a 1-2 down the pipe, knocked his opponent out cold. I mean, that was a pretty shocking thing. You've seen in his regional tape, you've seen a very good submission potential as well. We know where he trains at Shoot to Box with those guys. So very good, just chaining submission attempts together in a very smooth way. But as far as crashing to the pocket, he can be hittable. Switching from the striking to the wrestling to the BJJ is something I don't think is as fluid as that of Basharat. So I'm on Basharat pretty confidently. Again, the money line makes it tough because we still have this guy at Mendoca who's undefeated, 10-0, a young guy to make improvements rapidly from fight to fight. So it's a wild card. So I don't feel comfortable betting Basharat unless it's some sort of prop. But where Basharat makes it difficult is he has, the front choke series to be able to end the fight by submission. He's got the knockout power to end it with his striking. But he also has the high fight IQ to just hold a good position and ride out the clock and win the fight by decision too. So I really don't know how to play this fight, but I think Basharat should win this one. I just think he's at a higher level skill-wise at this point.
Yeah, I mean, with the result, I don't disagree at all. I think Basharat is just a better guy. My thing, so I really tried on the Contender Series this last season. I was doing all kinds of content. I did cover Mendoca going into his fight. He was fighting this guy. His name starts with an A. I don't remember. But the guy honestly wasn't that great. And I kind of expected a finish. I didn't expect I think it was 30 seconds in or something like that.
It was wild. It was fast.
Yeah, it was under a minute. So I didn't expect that, but I did expect him to win. He does have this shoot box striking style. He's got a good jab, a very nice one too, I noticed. Here's the thing. Here's my big thing here. He does have a BJJ black belt. He's shown some ability to wrestle. I haven't seen much of his grappling tested, but for me, it's the striking that's important here because his offensive striking, I think, is very good. Striking defense is where things get dicey for me. He's very hittable. And the way he swings, even on the regional scene against guys who just aren't as good as Javid, he'll overswing. And what does Javid do amazing? He counters. Personally, I do have a criticism towards Javid, and that he's not leading enough. He's slow starting, and he doesn't lead the fight enough with his hands. He looks to counter a bit too much. But in this fight, he couldn't have a better fight to counter in. I mean, the guy's going to be coming at him. the guy's smaller than him. Mendoca does have a reach advantage of 2 inches, which might make it interesting. But I just think that Javid's going to be hitting this guy from the outside nonstop. And at some point, I do think he'll find a finish. So what I did was I did parlay him with Mateusz Rebecki when Rebecki was minus 645. We'll talk about this later. I'm super confident on Rebecki. And then Basharat, I was like, all right, this is what I'm willing to do. So I parlayed it. It was minus 206, chalk.com, played 2.08 units to win just over 1. The main thing is I played Basharat by KO, and that I like. Plus 400, quarter unit to win 1. Or no, that's more than 1. There's a reason I'm in law school. I'm shit at math. But regardless, I think that he's very live for a KO. I think that Mendoca, is going to make it close in the beginning. He's going to make it seem like he should be like maybe evens. But I think as the fight goes on, he's going to start looking for those big strikes. He's going to be missing. And Javid is just going to get his stuff going. I mean, I think very highly of Tony Gravely. I think Tony Gravely, he's not going to be a champion ever, but he's a good fighter. And I mean, Basharat just bitched him. In the first round, not so much. Like I said, slow start. But then he just bitched him. So I can't in my right mind say that Mendoca is going to win this fight. I don't want to bet crazy money on Basharat, so I did that parlay. I did my prop, and I'm going to call it a day there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And the inside the distance odds on Basharat could be enticing. Like that, if they're high enough, like your knockout prop at plus 400, that's incredible. I like that a lot. I think he sets up a lot of traps very well with his counter striking, just like you mentioned, and that's probably how he wins the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are thinking like, all right, better with inside the distance because he can get the sub.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, yeah, I'd agree, but the price is so different. And
yeah, they're going to make you choose because they know he's capable of both. So they're going to make the knockout and the submission pretty high, and then inside the distance low. So you're forced to pick one, right?
Yeah, and in this fight, like even then, like I still, no matter what, I would have favored a KO on Basharat. I think that's his more likely way to win this one.
Well, that's where I've seen on the pre Dana White Contender Series tape. That's where I've seen Mendoza really falter more with the striking defense more than I've never really seen him falter with the submission defense.
Yeah, for sure. But all right, so we're on the same side there, and we'll move on. I highly, highly, highly doubt that we're on the opposite sides here, but we'll go over it anyways. We've got Mateusz Rebecki versus Nick Fiore. Rebecki is okay. I'm gonna pause because our guy pulled up and I'll say what up. Mushroom, what's up to you, my guy? I want to say right now, Mushroom is going live. I don't know all the facts, so you got to go to his Twitter page. Pretty sure it's Mushroom, but he's going live with our guy Lou Betcha, one of the best prop guys in the game. They're gonna do a prop show. Mushroom has never been on YouTube before. If you follow him, he's got the best lunches. Probably not even on Twitter in existence. I mean, the guy, I've tried to mimic his lunch and I couldn't even eat half of it. So
just looking at his MMA, just look at go on his Twitter. He's got good MMA tips and he's in all of the chats. But just looking at his menu, basically, will triple your testosterone instantly.
So you don't want to miss that one. Definitely check out Mushroom and Lou. I think it's this week. Just look at Twitter. I don't know the facts, but definitely check that out. MMA Prodigy with us over here. Rebecki should win, but the line's too wide. I'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah.
CT 710. I agree with you. And yes, Johnny, definitely legit.
Johnny K, what's up, Johnny K Picks? How you doing?
Oh yeah, he spoke to us earlier. What up, Johnny? Definitely check out Johnny. Check out his co-host, Cody, Blood Money Picks. Definitely check them out. Also killing it all the time. Love breaking down fights with them. But back to this one. We've got Mateusz Rebecki versus Nick Fiore. Rebecki is 16-1-0, 30 years old. He's 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. And I've got him out of American Top Team. Fiore on the other side, he's 6-0, undefeated as a pro, 25 years old, 5'11", so he's going to be, what is that? 4 inches taller, don't have his reach, and he's training out of New England Cartel, which is interesting. So I'll start this one off. Right away, we got to say there's very, very, very little tape on Nick Fiore. Almost nothing. There's like a video of him beating up the legend himself. What's his name? Jay Ellis.
Yeah, dude.
And not only did he beat Jay Ellis, I think he might be the only person who ever fought Jay Ellis twice back to back, because it's just like, literally what? And like, we'll talk about someone later, or no. On a different card, I'll be talking about this week about somebody who got flagged on Tapology. I'm surprised he didn't get flagged on Tapology for that stuff, because that is a setup fight if I've ever seen one. Now, in terms of his skills, right? He's a BJJ black belt under Gracie, not Royce, definitely not a New York Gracie. I don't know exactly what.
New Hampshire Gracie or something like that.
Yeah. I can't pretend to know, but I was listening to Clint and Liam over on the Die Hard MMA podcast. Obviously, you should be following them. But Liam was talking about that BJJ black belt, and he seemed to think pretty highly of where he was training. So I'm going to take his advice there. I'll assume that Fiore does have decent BJJ. And obviously from the tape that we do see, I mean, he looks very legit. But again, against Jay frickin' Ellis. Jay Ellis has over 100 losses, and his best win is Gerald Mearshart, which is shocking if you think about it. So, and in terms of Rebecki, right? He was on the Contender Series. Again, I was covering that season as much as I could. I tried to put out a lot of content. And I believe I actually tried to fade him. I tried to fade him against his opponent, because other than his most recent fight before the Contender Series, there's also almost nothing on him. Everything was old, very old tape. And he seemed like just a guy who had very good wrestling on the European scene. But other than that, I didn't see much. And the Contender Series fight, I mean, it didn't help much with the striking, right? It didn't show much of that. But the wrestling and the grappling just kind of solidified what the other tape did show, that he's legit. He's no joke. And look, maybe I'm being irresponsible because there's not that much info on Fiore. But because of what I've seen, because I think Rebecki is the better striker, because I think he's a much, much better grappler, and I think the competition is not even close, I'm very, very comfortable with Rebecki. I did parlay him, like I mentioned, with Basharat. That parlay was chalk.com, minus 206, played it to win just over 1 unit. And then I played his inside the distance prop because I was actually kind of surprised. His ITD was sitting at minus 185 when I played it. And I'm pulling up as I talk.
It was there last night.
It was.
When I recorded, yeah.
So today, actually. Today it shaped.
I also hit that too. We're on the same page for that.
Did you? Awesome.
That's the only bet I have placed on this card so far.
Let's go. It's actually minus 210 now. I just looked, Pat. It changed at almost 5 o'clock today. So, yeah, like I'm hyped to hear Pat's thoughts, but at minus 185, I thought that was fantastic. I mean, look, this guy Fiore has never been out of the first round, first of all. Second of all, he's never fought anybody good. And if his strength is grappling, I do not think he's submitting Mateusz Rebecki. So I think it's Rebecki all day. I think minus 185 is a fantastic price to pay for him, ITD. And I'm hyped to hear what you think, Pat, now that you're on my side. So what are you thinking?
Dude, I like Rebecki so much, or like they call him, I think it's Rebecki or something like that. I don't know. They were pronouncing it weird on the Contender Series, but I like him a lot. I mean, he's got striking and wrestling, and he's tough enough to blend both together. We saw in the Contender Series, he faced that guy who was like way taller and longer than him, right? And he was able to just eat a shin over the face and a knee to the face and just go right to the takedown, just dominate that guy and choke him out like a rear naked choke, like in side control, like a side mount. Is very strange. But he's a savage. And if you look at his striking too, I mean, he has got that nice, because people are expecting a takedown. So he can kind of dive down, bow his shoulder and then come over the top with like a big left. And he's slept a couple of people with that very early with one punch. So he's got one punch knockout power, wrestling, submission ability to back it up. He's been to the 4th round, the 5th round before in fights. Of course, I'm all over him in this spot. And I was very surprised his inside the distance prop cut down that money line so much because we're looking at, it's currently sitting at, right around minus 200 for the inside the distance of Rebecki, but his money line is like minus 800 now in some places. So any way to chop down that number that much, I'm into, and I don't think this sees the scorecard. So any form of the unders I like in this spot as well.
Pat, if you don't mind, did you mention your stake on this one, on the ITD?
2.5 units.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I went kind of heavy on it, honestly.
Yeah, I did 4 units because I was comfortable, honestly. I feel like I really think Rebecki wins. And for me to do anything otherwise, I have to assume that Fiore is going to make it 3 rounds. And I have a very hard time seeing that, honestly.
And you see it even if and it's just the overlapping skill set as well. Like if Fiore was like some sort of high skilled Muay Thai guy or some wrestler with like or some striker with like a lot of good wrestling defense, then maybe we could talk about something here. But we're seeing the majority of his win condition is grappling based. That's not going to bode well against Rebecki. So whenever you have that overlapping skill set, that's when you see the money line go crazy and for good reason.
All right. Yo, sorry I just coughed. Usually I mute, but today I forgot. Real quick, let's catch up with the chat. We got Papa Chuck in the chat. Thank you for tuning in, my guy. Happy New Year to you. It's okay that you missed class. I will not mark you late. Fiore only passed round 1 once. Mushroom, I just looked this up once you said it. I don't think you're correct. I'm looking at his topology, and it's all round 1. So if any of those are incorrect, please hit me with that. And on the note of Mushroom, his show's on Thursday, by the way.
Maybe he's referring to the amateur stuff because he was in like round 2 in the amateurs.
Yeah, but then he would have said it twice. I was thinking the same thing, but then he went to round 2 3 times as an amateur, so that wouldn't quite make sense.
Well, who knows?
Who knows? We all make mistakes reading stuff. I read things very fast. But
maybe he's in a food coma.
Bro, I'm gonna say this. His like, I don't know if you've ever had it, like the burger inside of a grilled cheese.
Look, I'm fat, but I'm not that fat. Come on now.
Hey, I'm not that fat either. That stuff is good stuff. That is some good stuff.
There's certain food items where it's like, I could do this, but do I really want to look myself in the mirror after this? Probably not.
I'll tell you this. I ate that only one time, and that's probably the last time I ever will because of what you said. But, yo, that stuff's worth it.
You might as well just get in a power chair next time you go to the grocery store after eating something like that. Just live the whole lifestyle.
But all right, we'll move on. I'm actually super curious what Pat's thinking. We haven't spoken about this fight yet, us two. I do know that I'm on an island, but we've got Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribeiro. Alhassan is 11-5-0. He's 37 years old, not great. 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, and I actually think he's at elevation now. I'm not positive on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. On the other side, we've got Claudio Ribeiro. He's 10-2-0, 30 years old, so he's going to be 7 years younger here. 6'1", he's going to be 3 inches taller with a 77-inch reach. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. So literally every single measurable is in the favor of Ribeiro. And for him, I don't have a camp, so we're going with Brazilian black tie. Pat, do you remember who went first last time? I don't.
You did, because you were all over Rebecki.
All right, cool. Your turn then.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun fight, a fun middleweight scrap here. Alhassan, 11 wins, 11 knockouts, 11 round 1 knockouts, 5 losses. So the only time he's been finished was by Chaos Williams in round 1. The other 4, he's gone to decision and lost, right? He's 0-4 in decision. So statistically, if he leaves round 1, doesn't get that knockout, he's losing the fight. He came close last time against Joaquin Buckley to, a split decision loss. He almost made it. Showed that he actually has some good power and can not die of a heart attack in round 3, actually do something, but still dicey to bet on somebody like Alhassan and expect that he's going to do better after round 1. Claudio Ribeiro is kind of in the same boat, honestly. Like the guys, he's been out of round 1. This is the guy that was at a round 5 fight, right? He was in a round 5 on the regionals.
He made it to round 4, I think, and then got the finish.
Are you sure it wasn't round 5?
Or no. End of round 5, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it was round 5, and it was a very hard to watch fight. But he was still, he was still lucid, and his opponent basically just collapsed due to fatigue in round 5. So at least we see that this guy has been outside of round 1 and can be productive. But overall, this fight I don't see out of the scope of round 1. I'd say the technical striking is way better from Alhassan. But the unpredictability, the output, just like the aggression, I think goes to Ribeiro. But he loads everything up. You can telegraph it from a mile away. You can see what he's about to throw. But again, it's a lot more output. Now, if he gets in close against Alhassan, One thing I don't like about Ribeiro is he tends to back himself up against the cage quite often. And whether he lets himself get taken down or just trapped there and can't move, that's not good because Alhassan loves stalking guys to the cage, loves getting in the pocket and brawling once he connects once. So, I mean, it's a dicey fight. I want to bet Ribeiro because I like all of the tail of the tape advantages, the height, the youth, just the less fight miles. But I feel like by betting on Ribeiro, I'd be flipping a coin, and that's what I'm doing at these odds. So I don't see a lot of value betting Ribeiro in this spot, especially in a debut. But I'm going to take him to win. I just see something about this guy. Like I said, I think it might be the output. It might be the unpredictability and the diversity of strikes. But it's going to be a fun fight, and I don't see it ending. I don't see it ending any other way than in round 1. But I know you might have a different take on this one and where the odds are at, because this is over under 1.5. Of course, the under 1.5 is probably something ridiculous, right? Probably like what, minus 250 or more. Yeah, we're looking at minus
245.
Minus 245 for the under 1.5. Now you got to start thinking about what if these guys respect each other's power? What if it does go over? Because you're doubling your money if it goes over 7.5 minutes. But neither of their records would suggest that's likely. So I'm just passing on this fight probably altogether. If I did have to make a play, you could parlay that fight doesn't go to decision. Or no, that's crazy. They've minus 600, fight doesn't go to decision. Good God. I don't know even what to do in this fight. Fight ends in round 1. If there's a spot there, you could just like play both of them to win in round 1 and average it. Even that could be a good look, but I don't see any way to extract value out of this without it just feeling like a coin toss. But what's your take on this?
So I extracted value by being an absolute psycho. First of all, I didn't even know that
you're going to play the over 1.5, aren't you?
Oh, hell yeah. So first of all, I didn't even know fight goes to decision is plus 400. I probably would have put a quarter unit on that if I knew.
Good God, man. Why do you want to raise your blood pressure that much?
All right, yo. So first of all, after this weekend, next podcast, you guys are probably going to see me with gray hair. And this is going to be why. So look, I'm more than likely going to end up looking like an idiot. And that's why I don't have more than a half unit staked on what I'm about to say. But there's certain things that are making me think the way I am. First of all, starting with the over 1.5, I played it at plus 195. Claudio Ribeiro, yes, finisher to the max. His contender series fight, I did bet against him. I bet Valenzuela. I thought he was the more technical guy. That went out the window. The second Valenzuela went for the most ridiculous spinning back fist I've ever seen and just got clocked on the comeback and got
that was such a cool knockout, man. His head got knocked out of the octagon.
Dude,
basically.
He got murked, but it was like, it wasn't so much that Ribeiro was amazing. It was that just his opponent was an idiot and fought like an idiot. I mean, the measurables are completely in the favor of Ribeiro, but you look at his fights before the contender series, right? There's one that sticks out, the one we spoke about. He got the finish in round 5. Who was this man that extended Ribeiro to round number 5? We're talking about a 24-0, 40-year-old Brazilian regional scene guy who's never fought in a major promotion. Ribeiro went almost 5 full rounds with him. And not only that, he wasn't just beating the guy up. My guy got taken down, not once, multiple times. And it's just like not a good look. And you look at me, you're like, all right, but Alhassan is not a wrestler. No, he's not. But he just fought Buckley, and it was what? I think he got 3 takedowns. Buckley, say what you want, he's not a bad fighter. He doesn't have terrible takedown defense. He probably wasn't expecting it. He did get exhausted around number 3, which is another thing, because everybody before that fight was saying, Alhassan, you get him out of round 1, 2, he's dead. He won round 3 on all the judges' scorecards, I'm pretty sure. So the way I'm thinking it is, Alhassan, he's at elevation. He's improving. He's shown an ability to grapple now. And he's shown that, yes, he still only wins by first round knockout, but he can go past that mark. And Ribeiro has shown me a similar thing. He can knock out low-level competition very quickly. And then if he gets extended with some kind of difficulty, he has a hard time. So what I ended up doing was I played the over plus 195. I kept it very, very small, a quarter unit, because like Pat said, like everyone will say, both of these guys, you can pretty much call them heavyweights because of the way they fight, right? They're just going for that knockout. I just think that if we make it past that first round, things are going to look very, very different. And Alhassan by decision, when I saw it at plus 575, I could not play that. For a quarter unit, I mean, there's media scores scoring that Alhassan-Buckley fight for Alhassan. So to say that he can't win 3-rounder, I think is ingenuine. I think that the most likely outcome, in my eyes, is probably an Alhassan counter KO. When? I don't know. I just think that for me personally, the way I play these things, the way I bet, I think 575 for decision for Alhassan is off. I think plus 195 for over 1.5 is kind of off, but there's very good arguments going each way. Regardless, it's a crazy person play. There's a reason I don't tell you guys tail me no matter what. I give you guys my content. I give you guys my thoughts, and then you do your thing. Half a unit total stake here, quarter unit on one, quarter unit on the other, and that's it. Because in my eyes, the most likely outcome is a knockout in the first round. And Mushroom mentioned this, fight ends in KO. We don't have that prop right now, but if it's playable, I don't imagine it will be. But if it's playable, that's definitely a spot to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun fight, I think. But yeah, there is the chance that, like, what if Ribeiro comes in his debut and he's timid? He's got the octagon jitters. You know, Alhassan, not the most, like, aggressive guy. Like, when he's kind of like Rosenstrike in a way. Like, when he lands, then he'll start throwing combinations and tries to finish his work. But until that happens, he can just kind of stalk you down, try to get you stuck against the cage and enter there. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I could see – look, I'm not saying it's out of question. I think the odds are out of whack. When you start having this underjuiced as much as it is, you start looking over. But just with the statistics the way it is, I don't need to push this one. I'll let you do that.
Yeah, I'm loving the chat right now because they're completely right in their opinions. But it's so funny. Look, I'll tell you guys one thing and one thing only.
I really hope this cashes for you, to be honest, just so you can, just shove it in all of our faces.
Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. Do you remember what fight goes the distance was?
Something crazy, I'm sure. I mean,
I do because I played it. It was plus 375.
Case in point, Abdul Razak Alhassan, Joaquin Buckley. That fight goes to decision was probably even more. I mean, that was like nobody thought that was going to leave round one, and they kind of just it was close in a couple spots. But
I'm looking it up. That was a great point. I actually want to see now because Best Fight Odds does let you look at like just like the fighter odds at the time. So I'm looking at it right now. Like,
yeah, everybody was all over. Like, there's no way this leaves round one. And whenever we say those words, and I actually know whenever the commentators say that, that's when it goes over. So it doesn't matter what we say. But as soon as Michael Bisping starts saying, "There's no way this is going to leave round one," it's gonna go to decision. So,
all right, fight goes to decision for Buckley Alhassan was plus 240.
I feel like it was more than that. That's it.
Yeah. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Plus 240. Kind of surprising, right?
Yeah.
But all right. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Plus 1,000 Chris Curtis by decision in that fight. Mamma mia. Yo, 138 MMA. Don't talk about my grades. Doing well enough. But we'll move on. All right. So this next fight, all right. I mean, I obviously don't have an island opinion, but I'm a bit more confident than many people. We've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos. Nurmagomedov is 15-0, undefeated as a pro, 26 years old. He's 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. On the other side, you've got Barcelos, 17-3-0. 35 years old, so he's going to be 9 years older. 5'7", he's 1 inch shorter. 67-inch reach, he's giving up 2 inches in reach. And for Barcelos, I actually don't know his camp. I mean, we all know Nurmagomedov is with Habib. He's at AKA. They spent some time in Dagestan, but I don't know about Barcelos. If you know, Pat, let me know. But it's my turn, right? I think. All right, so I'll start this off. I got 10 units on Nurmagomedov. minus 350 is where I played it. And I've gotten a lot of shit.
Wait. Let me cut you off. Did you have this? I know you max bet Shavkat Rakhmonov. I also had a big bet on that guy.
I wasn't going to max bet this if I hadn't. All right. So this is why, if you guys haven't seen this yet, go on my Twitter. Yesterday,
so Umar Nurmagomedov is like the second call to the party. Like, your first date canceled, and now you're going after Umar.
Yeah, literally. So yesterday, I went live with my guy Evan on Twitter. The whole thing. Look at it. Watch the video. I spoke about this. He after I mentioned the 10 units, he asked me. He's like, "Look, you talk about max bets quite a bit from what I've seen. What's up with that?" Realistically, I've only had 2 max bets. I max bet Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou. That bit me in the ass. And then I max bet Irene Aldana, and that almost bit me in the ass. And I got lucky with her practiced liver kick from bottom.
That was epic. That was so epic, dude.
Pat was the one messaging me, actually. I was missing that fight. I'm often busy on Saturday nights because it's like my only night off. And Pat was hitting me up on Twitter. And he's like, "Yo, Irene Aldana." And I'm like, "Did she win or lose?" He's like, "Go look." And I just go look and I see, and I was like, "Mamma mia." So I don't max bet all that often. I was going to max bet. Pat, help me.
Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Yes. I was going to max bet him because honestly, I felt that, yes, Jeff Neal is a high-level fighter, but I just felt like he was going to smoke him.
Oh, for sure.
I'll get that chance to bet that again one day, but honestly, I'm comfortable with the max bet here as well. I saw the odds. I saw it open at minus 200. Completely overslept that. Probably not playable anyways. That was there for I think 10 minutes, something like that. I saw minus 350, and I was just thinking to myself, all right, I get it. And I also recognize that Barcelos is probably going to end up being a huge dog too. And I was like, all right, should I wait and just play Barcelos? Do I see a path? I just think that the Nurmagomedovs, yes, there's a name tax, but these guys are different. And Said Nurmagomedov, I understand that Barcelos beat him, but we're talking about very different people. The striking of Said and Umar is similar. I'll admit that. Kick heavy. That's what they like. They'll strike with the hands when they're in close, but they prefer to be at range with the kicks until they close the distance and get those shots in. But Said Nurmagomedov is very different than Umar. Said literally just got out-wrestled by Kakhramonov completely until he got his submission. Nurmagomedov is a completely different story. Again, I'm doing MMA math. I understand. We got that 93% takedown defense on Barcelos. Has he ever faced a wrestler like Umar? Never. I just think that Umar is going to control him, take him down, get that top control. I don't see a finish. I think that the over is probably a decent parlay piece. I personally won't play it just because I'm already overextended on this fight. But the way I'm looking at it is I just don't see it for Barcelos. Do I think he gets a knockout? I don't see it. I think he's a better striker. I just don't think he'll really get the opportunities. And then can he handle the grappling? I think enough not to get submitted. He's a coral belt in BJJ, I believe. But I just think this is different. I think it's very different. And I think it's going to show once we get there. I wanted to say how many Bobby Greens is Barcelos, but I think it's a little different than Bobby Green Islam Makhachev. But kind of similar to me. What are you thinking, Pat?
What odds were you able to get Nurmagomedov at? Just
minus
to compare, where is that now?
Minus 350. I would not condone where he is now. I would not condone that. It's minus.
Yeah, that's an important point because
minus 950 now, which is
okay. So minus 350. It's like a 77 implied probability he wins. Now it's 90%, 91%. So yeah, it's a huge difference. Huge. Markup and, value that you could have gotten. You're not getting it now. I don't agree with it now. I mean, it makes me want to put a quarter unit or a half of a unit on Barcelos because he's so skilled. But I think I'm living in the past, man, with Barcelos. He's let me down in a couple spots. The Victor Henry fight, the Timur Valiev fight, he kind of let me down in those spots. What I like about Umar is his the striking is going to be the main difference. Barcelos is by far and away the better striker technically. he sets up traps. He does things so beautiful with his striking. He'll have his feet together at range, kind of bow his torso towards you, baits you in to think that you're close, and then he'll pull counter you like crazy. At his best, he's gonna, he could knock out Umar Nurmagomedov in this fight. He's got the finishing potential, I think, in this one. But you got to account for the fact of how young Umar is. He's going to be getting better. Barcelos, we've seen the peak of him, and he can only be getting worse at this point. So, that's just the way I'm factoring it in. And then we can also see when we've got a relentless game plan for the wrestling like Umar, it stifles the good strikers, and you don't see the awesome striking anymore. You see it stifled. I mean, I could kind of compare this one to Jose Aldo against Merab Dvalishvili, right? Like, kind of a more overall well-rounded fighter in Jose Aldo, more experience and all that, a little bit older. But at the end of the day, I didn't think he was going to be able to use it. He'd be defending takedowns the whole time. It played out competitively, but he lost the fight. So I think this is going to be very similar. It's a big challenge for Umar, but I think he's going to come out the other side of this one and win and go 16-0. So it hurts me because I'm a big Barcelos fan. I really think the potential just passed him by with his age. He got in the game kind of late in the UFC. But yeah, all the values on him. But if I have to pick a winner, I'm picking Umar to win this one.
Pat, what was that comparison you just made? It slipped right out of my head the second.
Jose Aldo versus Merab.
I was so hyped you said that because I think it's so accurate, and I didn't even think of it myself.
Just like a one guy is going to go for a game plan repeatedly. It might take him 15 takedown attempts to land it, but he's gonna make you work. Just like the Jose Aldo fight, very similar to the stats of Barcelos, right? Barcelos 93% takedown defense rating. Jose Aldo was somewhere around the same. It didn't matter one bit, right? Because he was on the defense the whole time and lost. So
I had Aldo there, man, and you couldn't be more right. Like, I think what you just said is so I didn't even think of it. So good. But one thing I wanted to ask you, do you think that if I tell you right now, Barcelos wins 100%, it's just a fact. That's what happened already. I'm a time traveler. Do you think it's a decision or a knockout?
I'd say decision. I'd have to think decision, to be honest with you. I think he's got more of the finishing potential, but I think it's decision. I think he would have done the better work. He would have, sprawled and brawled, or maybe ended up on top somehow, had better cardio. And this is the point about this being a -700, a -950, the where it's at now. Like where they're at skill-wise in their career, from what I've seen, if Umar comes in here with a lackluster night and Barcelos has an above average night, I think Barcelos wins the fight. So at -950, you should be able to sleepwalk through the opponent and win the fight. It could be boring, but you should be able to land enough takedowns. I don't know. I think if he has a bad night or a bad weight cut or something, I think he could lose the fight at these odds. So I don't know. It's just there's no way to play. There's no way to even parlay Umar. I just think it's that far off right now. I think he wins, but the odds are so far off. Even parlaying him just would give me the chills.
Yeah, I mean, parlaying a -950 is not going to even change your parlay much.
But it's gonna happen. That's why he's getting inflated this way.
I will say though, so the reason I ask is Barcelos by decision on DraftKings is +1,000.
I saw that on a couple of books. Yeah,
and I think I'm going to hedge that way because with 10 units on Umar, I can put a half unit on Barcelos and still profit at -350 for 10 units and kind of help myself a little bit. Will I get there and do that? Maybe not, because I'm fairly confident in Umar.
Why would you be hedging off of Umar
just because
because Barcelos, just the money line now would be you know what I mean? It's comparable, right? +650, +1,000.
I guess it comes down to just that I wouldn't want to put if I do hedge, I wouldn't want to hedge more than a half unit, right?
Okay.
And I guess I'm being a little bit greedy, wanting that decision, because then, half unit, I can win 5 units, get back half of my wager. You go +575. You're right 100% in terms of logic. I'm just thinking as a possible hedge that I might not even get to, but it's just I'm thinking out loud with that. But I do think Umar wins here.
Yeah, if we're picking winners, I think so. Again, value all goes to Barcelos. I don't blame anybody for taking a stab on him at this money line. I was thinking about doing it at +498. Now it's +650. And we're only on Tuesday, so I mean, it's a good play. Just from you'll never see this high level of a fighter be priced like this again. So if you want to take that stab on it, it might pass you by in the future. So I don't hate it.
I mean, Barcelos before this fight, right? Has he ever been under like minus 300? I don't think so.
No, I don't.
I'm going to pull it up real quick because I want some facts for myself. But all right. So Trevin Jones, he opened minus 280, closed minus 250. That's kind of shocking, honestly. Wow. Mm-hmm. Victor Henry, he was minus 350, closed minus 450. Okay. Valiev minus 150. That I'm surprised about. I don't remember that. I thought he was wider. Minus 213.
Yeah, Teamer was really thought highly of him. I think still is. Like, that was a fun fight.
And then before that, it was minus 325 against Taha. He was actually the underdog to Saeed. He was minus 320 against Carlos Quiros, who I don't even know. Minus 245 to Chris Gutierrez. He was an underdog to Kurt Halaba. So my point isn't as strong as I thought. I thought he was like a permanent favorite in the UFC. I'm actually
it seems like it was that Saeed fight that really put him on the map. Is like, oh, this guy is
legit, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move right along. Not much more to talk about there. This is a fight that's got everybody split. We've got Ketlen Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. Vieira is 13-2-0, 31 years old. She's 5'8" with the 68-inch reach. And for her camp, I do believe she's out of Nova União. Pennington is 14-8-0. She's 34 years old, so she's going to be 3 years older. 5'7". She's 1 inch shorter. They got the same reach. And she's training out of, I don't have a camp from Instagram, so we're going with Altitude MMA. Pat, what are you thinking, my brother?
I was pretty confident on Ketlen Vieira when I recorded last night. Now I'm thinking, this is going to be a pretty competitive fight. I was going to put a money line bet on it, but now that the odds are shifting, I'd really want a plus number. I am on the Vieira side. I think she's just, a more well-rounded girl. I mean, she's got that flat-footed style where if she doesn't, kind of land her shots, then she could get peppered up by the shots of Pennington, who's got like more of the high output in some spots. The high output fights she's had for Pennington have been against, not great competition lately, like a Marion Renault or like, Aspen Ladd recently. Other than that, she's not that high volume. But yeah, I mean, her experience is unparalleled at this weight class. Raquel Pennington has only lost to former champions. But yeah, I just think Ketlen Vieira is just going to land more devastating shots. I don't think she's going to be controlled in the clinch the way that Holly Holm was able to, win some minutes off the clock with her in their last fight in May. And I think if Pennington tries to either, control her in the clinch, I think she can get struck up there. And if Pennington goes for a takedown, sometimes she could end up, on bottom position. And Ketlen is just so physical. If she ends up on top, I think she can ride out the time there and win the round. So I think a 29-28, decision win for Ketlen Vieira. She might give up one round just to like output. Sometimes early in the fight she makes mistakes. So overall, I do like the active jab from Ketlen Vieira. Her 2-3 combinations are pretty solid, and she's just going to land harder. So give me Vieira, but again, I'm not that confident, especially with her being a slight favorite. Where are the odds at on this one? I totally forgot.
So it's been back and forth. They've been super close. Now it's Vieira minus 125.
Yeah, see, that's the issue I have with it, right? Like I would do like a plus 105 on Vieira, but I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of value on betting her in this spot, to be honest. This will be a close fight and it's lined closely. So I'm just lacking good money lines here. I was really excited to bet this one. I had a strong read on Vieira, but I'm not feeling so hot about it anymore. And even looking at Ketlen Vieira by decision, which I think is the most likely, plus 135. Again, we're still not like extracting that much additional value from that. So, yeah, probably a pass for me, unfortunately, like a lot of these spots are, but I do like Vieira.
We're thinking super similar here, man. I mean,
are we?
For me,
I see a lot of people on Pennington, so do you see, what do you not like about Vieira? We can start there.
So, all right. Normally, like I've been backing Pennington forever. I love backing Pennington. Death, taxes, and Pennington by decision, except that one time she got a submission against Chiason.
Yeah.
Aspen Ladd, Macy Chiasson, Penny Kianzad, Marion Renault. I bet her in all of those fights. I was not gambling when she fought Holly Holm, so I did not get to bet that one. But I've bet all of her W's since then. She's been 4-0 since that fight.
Good run.
Yeah, it's been great. And then on the other side with Vieira, it's been the opposite. I've been losing money on her. I bet Misha Tate. I bet Holly Holm. And when it comes to the Holly Holm fight, listen, I bet Holly Holm. Of course, I'm going to tell you in a close fight, I thought Holly Holm won. I think there's very good arguments on either side. I'm not going to sit here and discuss them. My thing here is this. Pennington has found the most success and the most failure in the clinch. When she's a stronger woman, she dominates there. When she's the weaker person, she has a hard time. And I think that Vieira is the perfect problem for that because she also likes to clinch. And I think that even though the size is similar and the numbers only tell us that Vieira is 1 inch taller and only has a 1 inch reach advantage, I think that size is really going to show itself. Maybe in weigh-ins, maybe fight night, but I think it is going to show. 92% takedown defense for Vieira, 63% for Pennington. To me, that suggests that we're going to be on the feet for the most part. Good, very good sample size for Pennington, especially. Now, the striking, I think that's where you can make an argument for Pennington. And I didn't even think about it until I watched the tape. I didn't think that was the thing. And then I watched the tape, and I think that Pennington could be live. I think she could be live in the pocket. When it's in close, I do think she'll actually be a little bit more effective. But at range, I still think it's probably Vieira. If we get into some kind of grappling, whether it's the clinch or some kind of wrestling, I still feel pretty comfortable with Vieira. I played her at -110 for 1.1 unit. When I made the play, I was like, I'm definitely going to play her more once the odds come down. And then I taped it more, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. There was one prop that was like sticking out to a lot of us. Vieira opened up by KO on Bet Online at plus 2,500, which, you know, a Vieira KO is unlikely for sure. Is it plus 2,500? I don't know about that. I mean, since then it's adjusted. Now it's plus 1,400. So, I mean, I didn't track that just because I kind of thought it was a mistake. I thought Bet Online was going to come out and be like, yo, that was an error. We're avoiding all the bets. So, like, I put a tenth of a unit on it. I didn't track it. I just put it for myself. I don't think she gets a KO. I just think that those odds were, like, ridiculous. But I'm with you. Super close fight. I don't think anybody has a real edge, which is probably why betting this isn't the best idea. I felt comfortable at that -110 at the time. I'm getting more and more worried as time goes on, but I'm not going to hedge out. But we share a lot of the
same. You put it into words a lot better than I did about the clinch work. And yeah, the more physical girl in the clinch, I think is going to be the one that, you know, kind of wins this fight there. And Ketlen, you know, sometimes she does like to wrestle. Like she kind of does engage in that realm a lot when even her coaches want her desperately to strike. She'll want to engage in the grappling. So I think that would bode well in this match because I don't see Pennington getting up from underneath her.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to mention is like Pennington is strong in the clinch, right? And I see people saying like Holly Holm won in the clinch. Why can't Pennington? Holly Holm's like way bigger than Pennington, isn't she? Like by a margin, I feel like. And I think the strength is going to be very different. Like say what you want about Holly Holm, but the woman is legit. She is a striker, but she's shown a lot of grappling recently in her fights. So to say that just because she won in the clinch, Pennington is also going to, I don't know about that. But all right, we can move right along to this next one. It's a close fight. We didn't talk about this at all, me and Pat, so I have no idea where he stands. We've got Punahele Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov, part of the Chase Hooper Ben Askren family with the curly hair. Soriano is 9-2-0, 30 years old. He's 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Training out of Extreme Couture. He's got a, believe it's a D2 wrestling background, which is actually pretty good that he just doesn't use. We'll be talking about that. Kopylov is 9-2-0, 31 years old, so he's going to be 1 year older. 6 feet tall, he's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And as for his camp, I could not place him exactly I do know that he's in Dagestan according to his Instagram, but other than that, I don't know. Pat, what are you thinking, man?
Man, I like Soriano in this spot, but it's dicey. Like I like Soriano early, but I like Kopylov if this goes over 1.5. I mean, it's kind of a binary spot for me. I do think Soriano is just going to be the more dangerous man. I think he's going to eventually land that knockout punch pretty early on, probably in round 1 if they get trading. But one thing we know about Soriano is his gas tank is not that great. If he empties his gas tank early, he just seems like that explosive type of fast muscle twitch fiber type of guy, right? Where he can fight at that explosive speed, and then if it doesn't happen for him in round 1 or under 1.5, it's just not going to go well after that. Kopylov is the guy who I think in every one of his fights I've seen so far, he actually attempts and probably lands more strikes in each of the rounds as they go on. I think in round 3, he's actually always landing more than in rounds 1 and 2. And that's how he won the fight against Di Chirico in his last fight and got the finish in round 3. So he impressed me. I gained more respect. I didn't have much respect for Kopylov as a fighter and skill-wise before that. I still don't have much because against the opponent he was fighting, who's now he's not in the UFC anymore. I'm not even sure if he's still fighting, but I gained a lot of respect for like his hand speed, his combinations, his patience. He got like in kind of like a flow state in that fight, did Kopylov. So he could do that against Soriano in between the big explosive movements. He could win the minutes, gain the points on the board and win the fight that way. But I just think Soriano is going to just land that devastating shot very early in the fight and get another one on his record. Now, the money line I like, but again, I'm just not seeing a lot of extra value on it. I know it was moving a bit. It came down to a spot where I liked it around like minus 150. Is it still there? I wonder. About minus 150, minus 155 for Soriano, plus 135 for Kopylov. Soriano, if you're looking inside the distance or by knockout, plus 200. I like that a little bit more because I don't see him employing like a wrestling game plan and exploiting that weakness of Kopylov. I think it's just going to be like a devastating knockout if he wins the fight. Otherwise, I think he goes on to, maybe lose round 2 and round 3 and then lose the decision. So give me Soriano, round 1 knockout, but it's a dicey fight if it leaves round 1.
Question, Pat. If you were going to bet Soriano, would you maybe do like a decision no action? It's minus 200 on Bet Online. I thought I saw someone post a better line, but I could be wrong. That's all I'm seeing right now here.
I wouldn't, because they're still unknowns. I haven't seen a whole lot of Kopylov still. Like I've seen him against some Carl Robertson choked him out. I saw him against Duraev, who gassed out. Both guys gassed out. Now against Di Chirico. So I haven't seen him against like a high-level fighter. So I don't know if maybe he could lose a decision, right? He could fall apart. He's still kind of an unknown to me in that regard against a guy like Soriano. So if I were to bet this fight, I would bet probably just a money line of who I liked, right? I'd bet either the underdog price of Kopylov, not a bad bet. If I felt strongly about Soriano, I'd probably bet his money line and just, however he gets it done, he gets it done.
Fair game. Yeah, so I ended up playing the underdog. I did play Kopylov.
You're a Kopylov fan. You like Kopylov. Didn't you bet him last time?
I don't remember if I bet him against Di Chirico.
No?
I would love to say I did because he won.
Mike won that bet last time. He never loses a Kopylov fight. We'll just say that right now.
Maybe I bet him. I don't remember. I know that against Duraev, I did bet Duraev. And I was pretty anxious during that fight. I mean, Kopylov defended 8 of 9 takedowns. That's a pretty good look. They did both gas, and we've seen since then that Duraev is a gas king. So take it from what you may. I wasn't going to play this. I was going to stay off of it. You know what this fight really reminded me of, Pat? Dennis Tiulin versus Jamie Pickett.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see that. Yeah.
I don't know why.
You've got a big physical guy. You've got a guy who, kind of is underrated, doesn't look like he'd be all that formidable, and then he ends up just getting the job done. I can see where you're coming from with that. I can't quite put it into words, but
that's
I know
like the
why
first thought that came to my head. Like I looked at this fight and I remembered my bet there because I had a similar thought process. I was like, all right, I think Tiulin is a little bit better, but they both kind of suck. I think I ended up playing Tiulin last second underdog and like it hit. And then I looked at this. I was like, that reminds me of that. But regardless, talking about the fight itself.
Are you comparing Soriano's skill set to that of Jamie Pickett's?
No, so that's a great point again. I think that Soriano would fucking murk Jamie Pickett. So speaking about this fight, I think what really stuck in my head was the Soriano Brendan Allen fight, because I'm very high on Brendan Allen. I have been, and it's cost me money, but I think it's the grappling that makes him so good. I think that the fact that his striking can hold up is amazing for a guy like him, but I would have never thought that he could outstrike Punahele Soriano going into that fight. I would never have thought that. And to see that, listen, like, is Kopylov that much worse of a striker than Brendan Allen? I don't know. I don't think so. Would Brendan Allen submit him in one round? Yeah, I think he would. But that's a whole different game. That's not what we're seeing here. Soriano can wrestle. He's got a great background. Just doesn't freaking use it. Not at all, even when he should. So do I expect him to come in here and just take Kopylov down? Like, he might shoot. I don't think he's going to get it off him.
Well, speaking of Jamie Pickett, that's what he did. He did that to Jamie Pickett early on, right? The Contender Series bout.
Soriano, right? He fought him. Yeah. So I just don't see him holding Kopylov down. And at the end of the day, say what you want about Kopylov. I was watching him yesterday. I was like, damn, I like your striking. The 1-2, crisp. The speed.
Were you watching the last fight? Were you watching the DiCirico fight?
I watched the Duraev one first because I wanted to see how bad it looked with the takedown defense. And then I did the DiCirico fight because I think I missed that one live.
He looked good in that DiCirico fight. Like, it was impressive.
He looked good. There was a point in the fight, I think like round 2, where he kind of slowed down and it looked like maybe DiCirico would get back. And then in round 3, he just went off. And it was one of those situations where it wasn't the power that got the knockout. It was just the fact that the punches kept landing.
Yeah, there was no ability to recover at any point from or clear the cobwebs from DiCirico. He was done.
Exactly. So the way I'm thinking about this is Kopylov's going to be bigger. And at range, I really do think it's going to be Kopylov. Soriano, yeah, he's a good striker, but it's mostly in close because he has his power. But at range, you don't see him throwing straight 1-2s down the pipe. Most of the time, it's a hook. It's hooks. Just how it is. So I think that Kopylov is going to be landing the strikes first. If Soriano mixes the wrestling in, it's a whole nother story. I don't blame anyone playing -155 Soriano because that might end up looking like an amazing play. Kopylov has his issues. I just think that at +147, it was a good price tag for a unit. I do think he's going to be the better striker. And because of that, I can't bet Soriano unless I'm guaranteed he's going to wrestle, which I don't have a guarantee there. So that's the way I thought about it.
I like Mushroom in the chat saying round 3 KO from Kopylov. I like that quite a bit.
Let's look at it real quick.
It's a weird, but like I feel like your underdog play on Kopylov is almost like playing, like an over 1.5, which would that'd be a good price, right? So
over 1.5 is, let's see, it's -160 on 5 dimes, but most of us don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if DraftKings gave us one yet. They usually do.
Usually does too. They usually have the alternates at this
So
point.
Bovada I don't have anymore. They took it away from New York because they wanted to be in the running for a legal sports book. They didn't get it.
Over 1.5 for this fight on Bovada is -190.
Okay, it's -195 on BetRivers. Yeah, I feel like that's rough. Like at that point, I'd rather play Kopylov because honestly, like the way
that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean. Like by playing that, I feel like you're safe if you get over 1.5. So I feel like getting plus money there is a good bet.
Yeah, and I feel like just like based off of what I'm saying, like if I sit third party and just listen to what I'm thinking and saying, like it seems like I think that Kopylov should be a evens at least, right? Like pick him. So because of that, I gotta like it. It's just like in my head, how do I see Soriano winning? And it's just a clean knockout.
Yep.
And Kopylov's never been knocked out. And say what you want about his cardio, but in terms of combat experience, the guy's got so many combat sambo fights. He's a combat sambo master of sport. We're talking, that means like he has to have had like over 100 fights in combat sambo. So we're talking about a guy who's experienced in this stuff. I just think it's going to be a super close fight, and I do like the underdog there. I do.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm probably going to stay away from this. This is a spot where I was looking for a bet, and maybe the knockout prop for Soriano, possibly. Maybe round 1 knockout if there's something juicy there on a sports book, but I don't know. That's just how I see him winning the fight. I think he does get it done. I'm pretty confident he gets it done, but I'm also going to be, if he doesn't get it done and we're at the over 1.5 mark, I just see him falling apart. So
actually,
that's not good. That's not a good feeling to be choosing the guy who's fighting on a timer is never a good thing.
I also did want to mention my guy Mushroom here. He mentioned the round 3 KO for Kopylov.
Oh yeah.
So Kopylov round 3. Don't look up Bet Online. The prices are worse. If you have DraftKings, Kopylov round 3 is plus 1,400. Kopylov round 3 KO is, let me tell you, it's plus 1,800 on Bet Rivers. So, look, at the beginning of this show, I was talking to Pat about how I went over my record on Bet MMA, and I learned that all time I've lost 31 units betting round props. So I'm going to be way more conservative with round props.
Won 150 units playing round props, right?
No, man, that was the total loss. That means I've been taking L's. And it's crazy because if you play them, you feel like you're winning most of the time because you'll hit a big one like plus 2,300 Devin Clark round 3, and you forget about all the times that you lose it. Turns out you lose it a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard. We go back and forth for an hour and a half talking about who's going to win the damn fight, much less how they win, much less which round they do it, much less which method they do it in which round. So, I mean, when you really break it down logically, it makes sense that it's not going to be, great. So,
yeah, I've been definitely trying to move
I've been getting way less fancy with things as I've gotten through it, and I'm a lot less gray hairs on my scalp, I tell you what.
Pat, how long have you been betting for MMA? I know you've been watching forever, but how long have you been betting for?
Just over 3 years, so not very long.
Okay, so we're like on the same exact mark, and like I feel like we're also thinking the same things. Like I've also been moving away from all these things, like even round robins. Like that's what brought me here, and I've been moving away because like unless there's a lot of favorites that I really like, I don't feel comfortable making a round robin anymore. I feel like the bookies have been getting pretty sharp. That's why I love doing regionals. Follow me for that stuff, by the way. Always posting it. But I feel like that's where we still kind of got that edge. But we can move on to our co-main event of the evening. This one is a super exciting fight. Another very close one. The odds have been going back and forth. And I'm curious to see if Pat's on my side. We've got Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. Dan Ige is 15-6-0. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, 31 years old, training out of Extreme Couture. Damon Jackson is 34. He's 3 years older, 22-4-1, 5'11" with a 4-inch height advantage, same reach, and I've got 4-7 May for his camp, but I'm not positive on that one. So if anyone knows better, let me know. I'll start this one off. Man, this was tough for me. On first glance, without seeing the odds, I was thinking, all right, Ige's going to probably be a big favorite. I'll look at Damon Jackson. And it was the damn opposite. It was Jackson as the favorite, Ige as the underdog. And I was like, this has to be recency bias because you look at the people they're fighting. I mean, like, the level of competition isn't really comparable. I mean, it's not even really close. Like, I'll pull it up so we can talk about it. We got Damon Jackson. His last fight was Dan Argueta, right? On short notice. No, incorrect. Pat Sabatini, who he knocked out.
Yeah. It was such a fast fight, we forgot about that one.
It was a front kick that we all forget about. That was nasty.
Yeah, back in September.
That. Then it was Dan Argueta, Camuela Kirk, Charles Rosa, Ilya Topuria. Lost to Topuria. It's an okay loss. Overall competition, just not as good as Ige. Ige, last fight, Movsar Evloev, who he defended takedowns pretty good. He defended 7 takedowns against Movsar and did not give up. I think it was like 6 minutes of control time for Evloev, which is pretty good in terms of defense for Ige. If you look at Evloev's numbers. Before that, Josh Emmett, who's fighting for the interim title fight in 2 pay-per-views. Zombie before that. And then he knocked out Gavin Tucker 20 seconds in with literally one punch. Calvin Kattar before that, close fight, but obviously Kattar won that one. Barbosa split decision. I think Barbosa won, but to win a split, that's impressive. Mirsad Bektic. Overall, they got shared opponents. I just think that Ige's got the way better competition. You look at the striking. If you ignore the fact that Jackson just got a straight front kick knockout against Sabatini, how could you possibly say he's a better striker than Ige? I don't see how you could possibly say that. I just don't see it. Like, if you're saying he's a better striker, in my opinion, you're just looking at the Sabatini fight and going with it. And I don't think that's correct here, because I do think that on the feet, Ige is going to be significantly better. Maybe, yeah, he does have that disadvantage at size, but the reach is the same. Stats-wise, normally, if you've got a height advantage but not a reach advantage, you don't have an edge. There's no edge there. It's only if you have both or the reach, not the other way around. They got the same reach here. If we're in the pocket, it's Ige all day. At range, I still think it's kind of Ige. And then, yeah, if we get into the grappling, if Damon Jackson gets his wrestling going, sure, he'll probably get some control time. I just don't see a sub. I don't see him submitting Ige. And I don't see a knockout. So I think that Ige at the end of the day will either win a decision or get a KO. I've been considering the under or the fight doesn't go. We've got the under 2.5 at plus 160. So depending on what Pat is going to tell me right now, I might actually play that later. That's kind of something I like. Pat, what are you thinking?
Man, yeah, it's a close fight. It's lined more accurately now, in my opinion, than it was when Damon Jackson opened as the favorite, which was wild. That like he opened at like minus 160. Complete recency bias. Ige took some money off of it now, and I like Damon Jackson in this spot with a plus number by his name. I do like plus 105. I'm very tempted to make that a money line play. I just think it's going to fit into the weakness of Dan Ige, where he's fallen short in all of these these losses he's had as of late, where he's getting controlled. I mean, I think Damon Jackson can just win the fight by body triangle, back mount to taking him down and just rinse and repeat. Now that does gas out Damon Jackson, and in round 3, sometimes he has to coast to that victory, which is scary because then he's suspect at getting knocked out. Right, Ige is by far and away the better striker. The only times we've seen Damon Jackson actually finished, I think there was one. I think maybe Medeiros submitted him, but besides that, it's been like flash knockouts, which is Ige is capable of that. He's done it before. We saw in one of those last wins, right? Gavin Tucker a couple of years back, flash KO'd him. So that's possible. I think he could get smoked right off the bat, Damon Jackson. But if he gets his hands around the waist of Dan Ige here, gets it to the ground, I think he controls the entire round, and he could win the fight that way by a boring backpack decision. I think it's likely, he could get the submission there too, but I think it would be like riding out control time and just playing that game. Movsar Evloev, very, very talented fighter, able to do that. I'm not comparing that to, Damon Jackson's wrestling by any means, but Chan Sung Jung in that 5-round fight, even he was able to, just ride out the body lock, the back mount and win minutes. So, there's always that game between, did Dan Ige do enough striking wise on the feet, or did his opponent control him enough? And that's made some very close fights in the past. The Bektic fight was that way. So yeah, I like Damon Jackson in the spot. Not super confident. Once again, I'm struggling to find bets in this card, man. I hate it. I hate being wishy-washy on these, but if there was more plus money, if it went to like a plus 110, a plus 120 for Damon Jackson, I'd be all over it.
Pat,
what do you think about the submission defense? Say Dan Ige gets in a bad spot like I'm predicting. Can he defend the submission from Damon Jackson, or do you think like Jackson inside the distance is live?
So honestly, that's the reason I've been looking at the unders, because personally, I think that if Jackson does get his back, I'm going to start worrying about a rear naked. But I've been talking to people I respect, and a lot of people are saying they don't see Ige getting choked out. Apparently Ige's like I think he's a black belt. I don't know for sure.
I believe so. Yeah.
So you would imagine he's got that defense. And you look at Jackson, right? Like he's getting these subs, yes, but like a lot of the time it's like kind of like a last minute resort, right? Like you look at the time he got a submission against Mirsad Bektic. He was getting absolutely spanked.
Yes.
Ige doesn't wrestle like Bektic, but like I think Ige's a better striker, and if he can keep it on the feet, I don't see Jackson getting that sub. Pat, I wanted to say, I've never seen you do one of these things. Should we bet?
Oh, I've done it before. Should we bet on this one? God damn, there's got to be a better fight than this. But
not on this card.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. All right, I'll ride with Damon Jackson. Not sure if I'm going to bet it yet, but let's do a should we bet on it for sure.
At least you got some kind of bet on it now.
Yeah, I'll feel locked in.
You heard it here first on the Couch Warrior podcast. Addicted to Combat versus the Couch Warrior pod. Damon Jackson versus Danny Ige.
I might be doing – Danny Ige might smoke him like he did Gavin Tucker. I'll be doing fireball out of my crock again like I did that one time because of that stupid fucking Johnny K picks. You bastard.
Man, I've done I think every time I've done a shoey bet, I've lost. So
all right, this bodes well for me. This is like Abdul Razak Alhassan going into round 2. I got this in the bag.
But all right, we got our main event of the evening that has changed around, and man, it's been a ride. We've got Sean Strickland versus Nassourdine Imavov. Strickland headlining his second event back-to-back, 25-5-0, 31 years old. He's 6'1" with a 76-inch reach, training out of Extreme Couture. Imavov is 12-3-0, 26 years old. He's going to be 5 years younger. 6'3", he's 2 inches taller. He's got a 1-inch reach disadvantage, training out of MMA Factory. I don't remember whose turn it was. Pat, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, man. I mean, like we said at the top, I mean, I like this main event a lot more. It's such a crazy. I mean, I love that there was no gap between us finding out that the main event was scrapped and then that Sean Strickland was going to fight. Like, there was no gap, was there? Or was I just late to the party? It was just like instantly
right away.
Yeah, it was just like, gas them out, Sean Strickland in, let's run it. So big respect to Strickland for that. But I lean Strickland in this matchup. Before with Imavov and Gastelum, I was able to kind of offset the experience disadvantage of Imavov with the fact that Gastelum's career has just been like in a complete downward trend compared to that of Imavov. You had the size difference as well in that one. And I thought it would be close. I thought it would be dicey, but I thought Imavov could win rounds 1 and rounds 2, and then just grab 3, 4, or 5, and then get a 3-2 round decision there. This one, I think Sean Strickland. I think the experience is key. I don't think his career is like in a downward trend like Gastelum. He's got to match the size, but there's so many red flags to bet Sean Strickland because again, it's 6 days notice. That's bad enough in itself, but now you've got a guy who just fought on the last card 4 weeks ago, right? So a 5-round fight nonetheless. How are his hands? How are his shins? What's going on with this? Like, that's such a weird – the fact that he wasn't even, like, on a medical suspension for anything, like even like a 30-day. Maybe it's past 30 days then, I guess. I don't know. But the fact that he's being allowed to headline 2 cards in a row is pretty surprising to me because usually even when they don't have any visible damage, they have some sort of just mandatory medical suspension. So dicey to bet on him, but I do lean Strickland. I think his output – it's going to be enough to stop Imavov in his tracks because Imavov does slow down, but Gastelum also slowed down. That's why I was able to still pick Imavov in that spot. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up the pace, for all 5 rounds of this. It's a big ask for a guy, even on a full camp. So, where are the odds currently? Last time I saw it was like -120 Strickland. Is that still the case?
It's -110 actually each way now.
Pick 'em.
An exact pick 'em.
God, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, I feel like it would be a bigger favorite for Strickland by far if it was not, he just fought 5 rounds and lost, and it's on 6 days short notice, right? But the 205-pound weight class, that makes another monkey wrench in this because I don't even know if there's an advantage either way. It could benefit one guy largely more than the other being at a bigger weight class. I'm not sure. Both of these guys have fought at 170 before, so I don't know who's going to blow up and look better without having to cut weight this week.
So you actually pretty much hit everything I wanted to talk about.
I hit like every red flag possible, and there's so many of them that I'm not betting this fight. Even if I had a stronger opinion of it, I'm not betting it. But if all things were considered, and we just had Strickland and Imavov, I'd pick Strickland to win by decision.
There's 2 main things I want to talk about here. It's going to be the weight, and it's going to be Imavov's cardio, right? Real quick, I want to catch up with our chat. It's been a minute, so I'm not going to go too far. I'm going to go to what makes sense, because sometimes you guys are crazy over here. Mushroom, I honestly thought you were like 20-something, so don't ruin your age, man. Ige KO round 3, I like it. I've been looking at the KO myself. Ige smokes Jackson or gets smoked, no in between. That's why I kind of like the under.
Yeah.
Jackson only loses by finish. Exactly. A little biased here. One of your favorite. Yo, he's been pretty dope, right? Like, it's hard not to be a fan of Jackson recently. Racks up minutes. He'll gas himself out and get finished. I don't.
That happened with Argueta almost.
Then we got Strickland round 4. Mushroom, I'll talk about it in a second, my guy. Big Steve showing a penis. Make sure you check out Big Steve's channel. I think it's called Big Brain Podcast.
Is it?
Smart
I don't
dude.
even know that.
Yeah, smart
I'll
dude.
check it out.
Good bets. I
like the advertisement with the giant. That's 4 equal signs on that cock. That's
3.
not bad.
3. Oh no, that's 4.
No,
One, 2, 3,
you don't know your way around a cock, Mike. You gotta brush up. You gotta brush up.
Yo, yeah, okay. We're gonna get that off the screen, but Steve is the man. Check out his stuff. Strickland rear naked choke round 5 to start 2023. You know what? Give me plus 6,000. I'll play it. Mushroom, thank you, my guy. And Prodigy got Damon here. Makes sense. All right, so my turn. Strickland and Imavov. 2 things I wanted to talk about. First off, the weight class, 205, right? Weird. Who do I think is that going to affect more, though, right? If you think about it, Pat, you got Strickland, who does not bounce a lot. He doesn't move a lot. He moves forward, but for the most part, his feet are flat, right? Nassourdine Imavov, he's bouncing, moving a lot. So who's going to get more affected by an extra, 20 pounds?
Imavov.
I got to imagine it's probably going to be Imavov, right? So for me there, that weight difference.
And we're 6 days off, so he probably already started dropping that weight. Now he's got to,
Yep. Now he's got to.
Like, he hasn't been in the sauna, but he's already been dieting, at least somewhat. So
for sure,
I don't know what the guy walks around at, but like I said, both guys have fought at welterweight before in the past, so he can't be too fat.
Yeah, I mean, at least from my own experience from doing it, like normally if you've got a big cut, like you'll leave maybe like 10 to 8 pounds for the last week, right, and then do the rest. So maybe it affected him. I just think overall, like if there's going to be an extra 20 pounds involved, I'd rather go with the guy who's not going to be dependent on moving a lot, and that's Strickland. And now in the cardio, that's something I did want to talk about, because when Imavov was fighting Gastelum, I did have a bet on Imavov as well. And I felt that people were overplaying the cardio. I felt that people were having recency bias. People watched that Buckley fight. They saw him slow down, and they're like, this guy has shit cardio. And it's like you completely forgot about the Phil Hawes fight. How about that one? Phil Hawes out-grappled him for 2 rounds, made his life extremely difficult, and then he outstruck Phil Hawes in round 3 and almost knocked him out.
Yeah.
No one's talking about that. So I wouldn't say his cardio is all that bad. That said, he's never gone 5 rounds as far as I know, not on the regionals either. And in my opinion, I think that Sean Strickland's going to have a bigger output than Gastelum. If Imavov was fighting Gastelum, I think he'd have to consider the takedowns a lot more. Now, I don't think that's the case. He's got to defend his damn head, because Sean Strickland, no matter what, is going to jab.
Yep.
And it works. At the end of the day, it works. It's annoying to watch sometimes, but it works. And also, I'm a little curious about how the shit talk is going to play into it, because I don't know if you remember, Pat, but when Imavov fought Buckley, after like round 1 or like during, like I think there was maybe a crotch kick or something, they were getting split up by the ref. Yeah. And Imavov was just running back in, like not waiting for the fight to get called back. And like just in the play up to that fight, he was getting very like worked up.
Yeah, there were some antics in that one. That was a Paris card, wasn't it? It was the UFC Paris card.
Either that or the England card. It was one of those for sure. Probably the Paris one. That would make sense. But I just feel like if that got to you, like Sean Strickland will get to you. Like the guy's going to say everything he can. He's banned on like every form of social media. He's going to come at you. He's going to say stuff that's going to upset you. So with that said, with the fact that I think the weight advantage will go to Sean Strickland, I think the output, regardless of anything else that I've said, is going to go to Strickland. I think that the technical striking is probably to Imavov. And from my eye, it seems like Imavov has a better striking defense. Strickland's numbers are honestly just as good over a bigger sample size. I just feel like watching it, it seems like he gets hit a lot. So I do think Imavov will find success. I just think with 5 rounds, like Sean Strickland will find his chance to win either decision or a late finish. And the one other thing I wanted to say was he is on short notice, but what do we know about Sean? He practices almost completely just by doing sparring. He spars almost like 90% of the time. Like people, I know there's a lot of fighters who don't like to spar. They like to keep their chin. Sean Strickland could care less. He's sparring all the time. That's what we hear. And that's what he talks about. So if he's always sparring, and I forget what fight it was. I think the Cannonier fight, the commentary team was talking about how he spars in the same ounce gloves as the UFC they use in the UFC, not in practice. Like I think it's 6 ounce gloves, right? For the UFC?
4,
right? 4, 6, whatever. And then they train, I think, in like 6, 8, 12, right? Something like that. Never trained striking in my life. So I'm just talking what I think I know.
Yeah, like a boxing glove would be a 16-ounce glove, a training glove sometimes for boxing, 10-ounce gloves for amateur boxing competitively. So they're all types. So anywhere from 16 all the way down to what they wear in the UFC is 4.
So yeah, so at least according to the commentary, Sean's training in 4-ounce gloves. And if he's doing that, if he's constantly sparring, I'm not that worried about him not having that.
That's nice. That's like a treat though to train in 4-ounce gloves. You don't have the weight on your hand of a giant, 16-ounce boxing glove.
You're getting hit so much.
Yeah. Well, he probably wears the 4 ounce. His opponent's probably wearing like a 16 ounce.
He just wants to murk. Nah, it's probably the other way around. He's probably got pillows. They got the 4-ounce gloves. He's just like, hurt me.
Right.
But it also helps. I think he has 5-round experience, right? Like multiple times now. There was the Hermanson fight. There was the Cannonier fight. Was the Hall fight also 5 rounds? It was,
yes. Yeah, it was. And he did a lot of the good wrestling work in the later rounds, too.
4 takedowns. Can you imagine? Imagine he did that against Pereira.
No, I can't.
R.I.P. to my bet. I was so confident there. But all right, guys. That's the card. We've broken it down from the bottom up. Big thank you to everybody watching. We've somehow got around 30 viewers right now still live. So thank you all for watching us.
Hey, welcome back, you guys. Good to be back. Breaking down fights with you, Mike. This is a dream come true. We're back for another year of action here, and the break is over. Let's get after it.
Hell yeah. And don't forget, I'll pass the mic to my guy in a second, but don't forget, me and Pat next week for 283. We're doing our show. We got the panel. This time it's going to be on Pat's channel, Addicted to Combat. We're going to be doing it. Not going to announce the guests yet. Wait, Pat, they're official, right?
They're official.
Okay, we can announce them then. We've got Gordo and Liam coming on. Should be a dope show. And then in terms of me, myself, and I, this week, I think tomorrow I'm going to try to put out some stuff. No promises. I think I'm going to do Invicta FC 57 and Ari's FC 11. They're both next week. I'm not going to have time next week, so I think I'm going to put it out tomorrow. No promises, but that's what I'm going to try to do. And on Thursday, I'm doing my first ever Twitter space. Been wanting to do those for a while. I'm doing it with my guy, MMA Propaholic. Dope guy. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. Very good with props himself.
He's funny, too. I'm glad he's on YouTube now.
Yeah, he's hilarious. I'm glad he's started to do content. And we spoke. We decided to do a prop show together. And I was like, let's do a Twitter space. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you pull up to that. And then, Pat, take it away. Thank you for coming on, my guy.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome, Mike. And I'm glad we get to break down fights again next week for the pay-per-view. But, yeah, for you guys that don't know me, my name is Patrick. I run a YouTube called Addicted to Combat. You can find me there on YouTube and on Twitter as well, and Instagram. But, Yeah, man, I break down fights every week. I'll have all of my bets out on either Wednesday or Thursday. My best bets and props video. It's a nice short form one with all the betting action I recommend. And I usually do a Wednesday night live stream as well. This week, that's not happening, but next week I'll have the panel. And then after that, we'll start doing weekly live streams. So come give me a follow. Let's talk fights. And welcome back, you guys. Happy New Year.
Hell yeah. And real quick, Mushroom, I'm still figuring out the Spaces thing. I think I already made it, so I do have a link. I'll post it on my thing tonight. First, I'll put up me and Pat with our timestamps because we're more important, JK, and then we'll do this. I'll put up the space. But thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate all of you, and let's get it. We're finally back. Peace out, guys.
Cheers.